Hello friends, and welcome to Twin Peaks Tarot. I'm Laura, and this is a new little venture for me. I am going to read your tarot cards for each zodiac sign. This is the plan. Hopefully every fortnight, and I'll do love readings and general readings, or relationship readings and general readings. So I hope that'll be every fortnight. Now, I know there's a lot of tarot readers out there on YouTube, and I do not profess to be a professional at all, not in any way, but I do feel I have a bit of intuition about cards, and due to some experiences and things in my life, I feel like I have a bit of psychic energy, so to speak. So I think that I can hopefully do some guidance, give you some guidance. But there is a little bit of a twist to my channel. I will only be using one tarot deck, and that tarot deck is by Benjamin Mackey, and it is called The Magician Longs to See. It is entirely based on Twin Peaks, the TV show, my favourite TV show, a TV show that I've written about several times and for some great places like 25 Years Later site.com, for the Blue Rose magazine, in Courtney Starling's book Laura's Ghost, for Twin Peaks Unwrapped, and and on so many different forums and Facebook groups and so on. Anyway, I digress. This tarot deck by Benjamin Mackey was made about 4 years ago, so it wasn't, Series 3 had just about come out, so a lot of the cards don't depict what happened in Season 3 so much. They're mostly based on the characters from Season 1 and Season 2, but that's all you need, in my opinion. The deck is gorgeous. It's so beautiful, and that's what I'm going to do here today. Today is more of an introduction to the Major Arcana cards. So I will go through these cards with you, because I think you should see the artwork up close first, because we don't know when any card's going to kind of come up for you, so you might never see some of them. So this is a way for me to show you all of the cards. This video will show all the Major Arcana. I will do videos also on the different suits in the Minor Arcana, and just so you know, that's the logs, which is the equivalent of the wands in the Rider-Waite deck. Got cups, which is the same as cups, and pentacles is, well, poker chips, and swords stays the same. So let's see. What I want to read you first is a bit of an explanation about this deck. This is the little the booklet that comes with the deck, Magician Longs to See, and it's got an amazing foreword by John Thorne, the brilliant writer. He has written The Essential Wrapped in Plastic. He's been, well, he was half of Wrapped in Plastic, the amazing Twin Peaks magazine from years gone by. He's like deputy editor at the Blue Rose magazine, and he's brilliant and a lovely man as well. So I just want to read this to you first, so you've got an understanding of what this deck is about. Let's see, show you. Okay, so this is by John Thorne. The extraordinary world of Twin Peaks is filled with mystery, intrigue, and more than a hint of the supernatural. This should come as no surprise, as it was Mark Frost, co-creator of Twin Peaks with David Lynch, who deliberately introduced elements of the occult into the series. Frost was influenced by the work of 19th century theosophical writers. These included the poet William Butler Yeats, a believer in mysticism and spiritualism. Yeats was a member of an occult society known as the Order of the Golden Dawn. Frost cites the Order of the Golden Dawn as one source among many for the theosophical concepts, the black and white lodges, the Dugpas, the dweller on the threshold, he wove into Twin Peaks tapestry. Benjamin Mackey, an artist of singular talent, recognised parallels between the supernatural elements of Twin Peaks and a well-known occult artefact, the Rider-Waite tarot deck. The tarot, of course, is a tool of divination, a set of playing cards that many believe can foretell the future. Tarot images are likely familiar to many. Figures from the Major Arcana, such as the Magician, the Devil, the Fool and the Lovers, have permeated pop culture. Now Ben Mackey has skillfully recreated the tarot deck to incorporate the unique qualities of various Twin Peaks characters. And so, Dale Cooper becomes the Magician, the Log Lady is transformed into the High Priestess, Truman inhabits the role of Justice, and Killer Bob, of course, emerges as the Devil. Most, if not all, of the Twin Peaks characters have been reimagined as part of the tarot. Mackey matched just the right element from Twin Peaks with just the right tarot card. Look at the moon, for example. Cooper's head, smashed into the bathroom mirror, becomes the face of a shining moon, while below 3 animals, a pine weasel, an owl, and a horse, take their place between 2 peaks. Compare that to the original card, which depicts a radiant moon above 3 animals, all bounded by twin stone towers. Mackey's inventive interpretation stays true to Twin Peaks and still honours the layout and style of the tarot's original artist, Pamela Colman Smith. Who was Pamela Colman Smith? She is an American artist who moved to London in the early 20th century, where she painted, illustrated children's books, and designed costumes for the stage. Smith eventually fell into the orbit of William Butler Yeats, the poet and theosophist. Yeats introduced Smith to the Order of the Golden Dawn. It was there she met Arthur Waite, who commissioned Smith to paint a new set of tarot cards incorporating theosophist symbols and imagery. And so was born the Rider-Waite deck, which has survived to this day. It is perfectly fitting, then, to see a spiritual connection between the Twin Peaks characters and the mystic figures depicted on the Rider-Waite tarot cards. Mark Frost was inspired by the Theosophists and incorporated pieces of their work into Twin Peaks. Likewise, Pamela Colman Smith took Theosophist symbology and transformed it into vivid art for the tarot. Benjamin Mackey saw the innate connection between the two and brought to life something wholly new. There are countless reasons why Twin Peaks resonates the way it does. There's the music and the setting and the story. And of course, there's the striking visuals, the stuff of dreams and nightmares. But it is the characters who truly enrich the work. The grounded schemers, the enigmatic seekers, the quirky, the cocky, the cool and the cruel. All of them are stories unto themselves. And each character is, in one way or another, connected to a powerful spiritual realm. Ben Mackey's tarot intuitively captures that realm, allowing the residents of Twin Peaks to touch the occult in a whole new way. When the characters from Twin Peaks assume the roles of the Major and Minor Arcana, they achieve a special and fitting form of divinity. They shine a new light into the darkness of futures past. Isn't that gorgeous? And it tells you about the suits here. So you've got the bookhouse swords, coffee cups, sycamore logs, right, see that? And poker chips. Perfect, isn't it? I love that. The owl cave, the fire. It's all to come in these tarot readings. So, as I said earlier, today is just going to be looking at the cards from the Major Arcana. Okay, so first up we have, as depicted by the Fool, or should I say the Fool is depicted by Andy. Ah, dear Andy Brennan. It had to be him, really, but I mean, we know that Andy isn't an actual fool. He's probably the most sensitive and sweet man who's ever put a policeman's uniform on. Let's have a look at what Andy's doing here. So, I mean, the detail in these cards is just incredible, really. He's got all those post-it notes stuck on him from that moment where he found out that he was the whole town. And he's carrying the boots here that he accidentally found. This is the thing with Andy, he seems to accidentally find out the truth. He deciphered what the Owl Cave map was all about, and I'm not sure what that is. It might be the stuffed animal that was in the Great Northern, possibly. I'm not sure. And I'm not sure what you've got in his hand there. Strange, but yes, let's have a look. So the Fool represents innocence, spontaneity, a free spirit, and new beginnings. Andy was the kind of guy who could find simple joys in everything. He was very sensitive. I mean, the first time we meet him, he cries when he has to take photographs of Laura Palmer's body. We know then what kind of man he is. But he's brave and courageous, and even though he's probably out of place in the police force, he makes the best cop. If we had more policemen like Andy, the world would be a better place. He has no badness in him at all. He's just pure good. And he proved that throughout his life. I think we know that the White Lodge, or the people who play on the white side of the chessboard, like the fireman, trusted him with some very important information in season 3. So he became a very, very important character, rather than just a dim-witted slapstick fool type. There we go, that's Andy. Let's have a quick look. Beautiful cards. Maybe that's Andy the Fool. Now, who's up next? Mr. Cooper, the magician, depicted by Agent Dale Cooper. Now, in the original tarot, the magician holds a wand up here, but instead here we've got Dale holding a fork and a piece of cherry pie. Now, this is always meant to depict as above and so below. So it means the magician is sort of he's in between two worlds, which is perfect really for Cooper. And he's here depicted in the waiting room. I'm not going to say the Black Lodge or the White Lodge because I don't think we've seen either myself. So I think he's in the waiting room here. We've got the Venus de Milo, the one that we see in the corridor, I think, not the one that we see in the waiting room as such. And he has on the table here, he has the 4 suits of the Minor Arcana all laid on the table. So he has the cups, or coffee cups in this case, logs, swords, the bookhouse swords, and the poker chip there on the table. So he's in control of everything. So this card represents the spiritual and mystical realms. And Cooper, well, and the magician at least, can adapt these 4 suits at his will. So the cups represent water, logs represent fire, swords represent air, and the pentacles represent earth. Just so we know. So when we're doing actual tarot readings in relation to your astrological signs, these will be related to you. So if you're a Capricorn, you're an earth sign, so pentacles will be yours. If you're a Gemini, it's an air sign, so you'll be a sword. The fire signs, like let's think Leo. If you're a Leo, you'll be a log. And cups, which is water. So if you're like Scorpio, that'll be your suit. And we'll talk about this more as we go along, because there's some cards that represent specific zodiac signs in the Major Arcana. So when they come along, I will tell you what they are. So we have, you've got Cooper in his FBI suit, his tie, commanding everything, really, which is a perfect card for the man who was so, he just was razor sharp, wasn't he? Cooper has two sides, as we know only too well. On one side, he had willpower, intuition, sharp as a razor, and passion, huge passion for the world, for nature, for Tibet, for enlightenment. He had a really strong heart. But on the other side, his ego kind of wins out, and he has a lot of rage, he has revenge in his heart, and these overwhelm him, and fear, unfortunately, for Cooper, because it didn't help him very much towards the end. But hey, that's a story for another reading. Okay, let's look at someone else. Next up is the High Priestess, as depicted by Margaret Lanterman, the Log Lady, and it really couldn't be anyone better than this. She's perfect for this role. This is a card of mystery, of stillness, of passivity. It's a female in the presence of the divine. She sits on a throne here, and she's in Glastonbury Grove, it looks like, because she's got the pool of engine oil here, and these sycamore trees. And this particular one has the map to the White Lodge, or Black Lodge, but I think the White Lodge is going to be where this lady's gone. And in alignment here, we've got the Saturn and Jupiter meeting, and she holds in her arms her log, the spirit of her deceased husband, Sam Lanterman, who she was only married to for one day before he died. Not even a day, on her wedding day. She didn't even make a whole day. How cruel is that? But she still carried on. She carried on. This card is about trusting your instincts, your gut feelings on people. And when it comes up in a reading, it can be telling you to take some time out to reflect upon what's going on in your life, your situation, and reflect, retreat, take some time out to be on your own, and really think about what's happening, because there's things around you that might not be what they seem, and not just owls. Just really just tap into your intuition and trust your gut, trust yourself. It also represents hidden talents, spiritual insight, and revelations. Now, yes, like I said, who could be more perfect for this card than the Log Lady? She had a lot of spiritual knowledge, even from a young age, when she was abducted by, well, you could say aliens, owls, or whatever, it doesn't really matter, something from another world. I think all of these things in Twin Peaks are kind of one and the same, whether it's aliens or spirits or demons and angels, whatever your beliefs. I think they're all, it doesn't matter, they're just names. It's just things that we don't understand, things that we can't see with human eyes. Right, so there we go, it's the High Priestess. Next up, we have the Empress, beautifully portrayed here by Catherine Martel. Unsurprisingly, this lady, this very feminine, beautiful energy, She represents dominance in a maternal way, actually, but as you can see, she's got the dominance here of the mill and the workers, and she has a lot of dominance actually over the town of Twin Peaks because she has a lot of the wealth. Between her, Ben Horn, Josie, there's always, well, they basically own the whole town, don't they? So here she sits on her phone, but always being aware of what's going on. Nothing goes past Catherine. Well, not usually anyway. Even the log here has a feminine energy to it. And if you can see here as well, there's a disguise. And she tricked Ben Horn by playing the part of Mr. Tojimura. Even her husband didn't realise it was her. But you've got to love Catherine. She was a very strong woman. Very smart. A player in business, conniving, deceitful. But also, you could tell that she'd been hurt in her life, and we saw her that she was hurt by Ben Horn and betrayed by men throughout her life. Her brother, even, by giving up the mill and everything that she'd worked for to Josie. You can empathise with everyone, even the coldest and cruelest in Twin Peaks. She enjoyed the game with Catherine. She enjoyed winning, and she played a really good hand. She sits in her white robe. Right. Oh, and there's that foot that Ben Horn loved so very much. Right, next. It could only be for the Emperor. Mr. Benjamin Horn. Ben Horn, sitting here in his garish suit and spotted tie, always wanting to be noticed, always wanting to be centre of attention. Here on his throne in the Great Northern Hotel, which is basically his castle, and his empire is below. He owns a lot of Twin Peaks, Horn Department Store, the Great Northern, and he wants to own Ghostwood Forest. And everything about him here represents sort of selfishness and gluttony and greed, including like food, his brie baguette there, his poker chips from One-Eyed Jack's, his seedy brothel on the border of America and Canada. Yeah, he was, he was very hedonistic, certainly in the beginning. It was all about money, food, sex, just indulgence of every kind. And later he does make some changes, but we know what Ben has been like his entire life. He was born into this hotel business with his brother, and he's always been ruthless. He's been a ruthless businessman, and that's why he's been successful. So it's kind of hard for us to believe by the end of season 2, and also in season 3, that he's actually turned into this nice guy that respects women and peaceful and calm. And but people do change. We should give him the benefit of the doubt. His brother has changed somewhat too. So we do wonder what happened to Ben in those 30 years to make him this cool and calm and apparently unselfish and ungreedy man. There you go. Okay. Next up, very fittingly, is the Hierophant. Hierophant? I hope that's how you say it. Hierophant? Hierophant. Depicted by Major Briggs. The amazing Major Briggs. Seen here is depicted in his vision after he was abducted from the camping trip with Dale Cooper. He sits with a cup in his hand. With this abundance of green lushness around him, flowers, the owls there, And here in between his feet is the Project Blue Book that he was working on as part of the government secret agency, which is why he was in Twin Peaks in the first place. So he was a UFO hunter in a sense, very, and what's in the UFO there to represent that. So there was a lot of secrets in this man, and he was unlike any other character really. I mean, he's God-fearing, he was religious, he was very logical, he was an army man, so he has all of these things: science, religion, occult, esoteric, everything. This man knew everything, and he was possibly a time traveler too. Well, he pretty much definitely was a time traveler, depending on what your idea of time is, whether it's a linear thing or if it's a circle. This guy knew everything that was going to happen, even to the point of when Bobby was a little child, leaving clues like Jack Rabbit's palace in place, swallowing Dougie's wedding ring as proof and as a clue for Gordon and Albert later to discover who Dougie Jones was, that it was Cooper and Bertrand. He was full of foresight. He knew everything. And he was missing for 30 years somewhere in the zone before his untimely but expected death. This man, incredible. But what does it mean in a tarot reading? The Hierophant actually depicts loyalty and tradition and morality. And in the sense of this card coming up for you, it may be that you need to seek counsel or advice from someone with authority. So because he represents so many different things, it could be a priest, it could be a businessman, it could be someone with like an army general with real knowledge of war or what that seems a bit far-fetched, but hey, this is Twin Peaks. So he could be like a father figure. He was a great father. He was sometimes, the first time we really met Briggs, I thought he was awful. And the Hierophant card actually represents the star sign Taurus. So if you see this card pop up, it might be you, it could be your energy, or it could be somebody in your life that you need to speak to who's a Taurus, who might be able to give you advice or who is knowledgeable and might be able to help you. Or it could be someone just with very Taurus energy, which we'll talk about later, that is meaningful in your life that you need to take notice of. So we'll talk about that later. And the Ben Horn card, the Emperor, is representative of Aries, and so the same goes for him in that sense. Now, next up, we have the Lovers. The Lovers represents Gemini, the Gemini star sign. So if this pops up for you, it could be a Gemini energy, as well as the other meanings behind this card. Now, so we've got Shelley and Bobby, the secret lovers. Shelley's husband, Leo, a massive pile of cocaine. The football that would carry the cocaine. Bobby wearing the tie that he used to wear at the horn when he was trying to get in with the horns. And Shelley, of course, works for the Double R Diner. So we've got Leo while he's in his vegetative state here. We've got him lighting the match that burnt the mill down on the request of Ben Horn, should we say. This card is about relationships, of course. It doesn't have to be romantic relationships, but it usually is. It's about making decisions within relationships. It could be about choosing a partner if you've got two potential, or more than two potential suitors. This is the time to make a decision. It could be that if you are having a fling with someone, you might have to decide which Are you staying with your husband? Or do you want to leave? You've got to make that decision sooner or later. You can't keep it going forever. So it's about temptations of the heart. And it also represents your... It does represent desires, but also that you know you're going to have to give something up. You're going to have to sacrifice something. You can't have your cake and eat it, basically. You can't... I mean... You can try, but karma will always find you. Yeah, somebody's going to get hurt, and it'll likely be you if you don't make a choice at some point. So we know that Shelley and Bobby's romance was steamy and sexy in the beginning when it was secret, but then after that, when Leo was shot and he was mute, he couldn't speak, he couldn't do anything, the pair decided to take Leo in and look after him on the promise that they were going to be making a lot of money out of that. But Leo did not turn out to be a cash cow, and Bobby got bored very quickly with this looking after the baby scenario kind of thing, and Shelley was stuck in another pretty abusive relationship. Not physically abusive this time, but it was kind of neglectful, should we say. Bobby tried his hardest to get it on with Audrey, but she wasn't really having any of it. He was far too young, too childish for her. And Shelley, obviously, she kissed Gordon as well. So they were a great couple, and we know that they got married and had a child after that. But there were always issues between these guys, all of them. It's all fun and games in Twin Peaks. Now this card, James, Laura and Maddie, the Chariot. This card represents Cancer star sign. So, and it's perfect really, because Cancerians are often very sensitive, very, very kind, gentle, but moody people. I love Cancer people. I get on really well with Cancer people. But yeah, they definitely have a difficult side. I can talk. I'm a Capricorn, so I've got a very difficult side. So here's James on his Chariot, and his broken heart. Twice broken heart. By Laura when she was murdered, and then by Maddie when she was murdered. Now, the Chariot usually means keep on the right track, keep going, don't give up. And I think that would be normally when it comes up, would represent when it comes up in a reading of yours. It could, especially if it's reversed, mean that you're being like James and you're running away. You're running away from facing up to what's happening. And we know that James got on his bike and went a few times actually, leaving Donna, bless her, all alone to deal with her best friend's death and all the other horrible things that happened to her while she was reveling in the trauma of being left by her new love, her best friend and everything else. Bless. I'm a defender of Donna. I know there aren't many. And so here is James leaving, but you also can't blame James. At the end of the day, he was still only 17, 18 years old, and he found the dreaded Evelyn, for the world's most boring side story ever. But, you know, he had no guidance. His road was not a straight road at all. He had no one to help him, really. I mean, he had Ed, who was having to look after Nadine, and had his own affairs of the heart to deal with. So he didn't have a father or a mother who were present in his life. So without that kind of guidance and emotional support, what's a man to do? this is the Chariot. So if this card comes up, you might be able to think of any of those things relating to your life. Next up, talking with Nadine. Strength. No, couldn't be more perfect. This card in the Rider Waite's arrow is usually a lion and a woman taming, or a man taming a lion. So this is Mike here, who represents the lion, and Nadine is strength. And this card represents Leo as the Leo star sign as well. But it's not strength. It's strength of nature, of willpower, of success. It's compassion. Nadine was always filled with compassion and warmth and kindness, and she never hurt anyone. It was a very sad story, really, Nadine's, that she was stuck in the life of a teenager for a long time, falling in love with his high school sweetheart, without realising that she was actually married 40-something-year-old and that her husband was quite openly then having an affair. But yeah, so it was all pretty sad. But there's her silent drapes with the engine oil dropped on it. See, she didn't give up. She never gave up on that dream. So yeah, this card represents triumph. It's triumph over major life problems, situations, or temptation through inner strength of character. It represents confidence, enjoying power, inner strength, potency, and self-belief. It also, so in that sense, it also represents control, self-discipline, and independence. Right, next up, we have Mr. Harold Smith as the Hermit. Couldn't be more perfect, really, could it? You see him here, poor Harold. There were scratches, self-inflicted scratches from his gardening rake on his face when he was betrayed by by Maddie and Donna. It's his plants. He loved his plants, his indoor plants, his orchids. He has them. The light is shining on him. And in between his feet he has Laura's secret diary, something that he held so precious and didn't want to reveal to anyone, and he guarded that secret with his life. And he was betrayed. He was betrayed by Donna. And she lured him outside where he really did not want to be. But the Hermit card in the tarot deck doesn't completely depict complete loneliness, but it can. It depends on the interpretation, really, and the other cards around it. But in general, it means that you're in a phase of sort of introspection, needing to take time out, drawing your attention inwards and looking for answers that way. It's about taking time to meditate and discover yourself. It is about solitude to an extent, but not necessarily loneliness. It can mean loneliness, but sometimes it's chosen loneliness, chosen solitude. Other times it could be forced. It depends on the intention, I think. But there is an element of sadness to this card. Wanting to be alone actually can be very nice. Everybody needs a bit of peace and quiet now and then. But it's when it goes on for prolonged periods that it's not good for anyone's health. And unfortunately for Mr. Smith himself, the fact that he could not keep Laura's diary completely safe as he'd promised her he would it made him end his own life. And wow, they say he hanged himself. I'm not entirely convinced by that. I think there was lodge spirits at play there, the way that they turned up at his house when his hand started shaking when he was outside. I think those Tremons, those impish little devils, might have been up to no good there. And the fact that the diary was so ripped up and pages missing, I'm not convinced that he offed himself. But anyway, and that's a story that I've written about on my website, so I'll put the link in the text or something later on. Okay, there's Harold the Hermit. Next up, now this is one of the only cards in this deck which has imagery from season 3, so this is quite interesting. The Wheel of Fortune. Now, if you think of the Rider-Waite deck, the Wheel of Fortune is quite, it's like a cycle of goodness. Things moving, things changing. But this card is pretty negative, actually. So we've got the ring, the Owl Cave ring here. The ring shape is very, very important in Twin Peaks. It's like the affinity sign. Really, infinity sign. It never ends. Nothing. The world always spins. Doesn't matter what happens, the world spins. There's nothing. We all just live in our own worlds. The world doesn't end. Our worlds might end, our internal worlds, but the world will not end. This card does suggest that there's going to be a big change in your life. It can mean death sometimes. It can mean rebirth. It could be new beginnings. But something big is likely going to happen in your life soon. It could be the end or the beginning of a relationship, or the beginning and end of a friendship, new job, completely new career, something pretty major. On this card, we have what we call perhaps Judy, Jowdy, mother of abominations, the experiment. Yeah, the thing that spewed Bob out into the world. And on here at the ring, we've got the frog moth. I'll call it the frog moth. That was also sent from the mother with her arms bent back to Earth. Now this was the result, all of this, including the woodsman here in their various states in the convenience store. All of this happened because of man's evil nature. It's 1943, 44, can't remember now, when man launched that Trinity bomb. It's such an evil thing to do, to plan nuclear weaponry against other humans. It pierced the veil between two worlds and let out a sense of evil into the world that we hadn't seen before, although it certainly had happened before. It was not like evil was just born at that point, but it certainly was a big enough catastrophic and awful thing to do that it unleashed a beast. This beast would go on to live inside Sarah Palmer, and Bob would obviously go on to live inside Leland. The woodsman, all depicted here. I think that's the Jürgen Prochnow. I'm saying his name. Prochnow. They're sitting there, and we have the electrician there. And I think the electrician says one of the most important sentences in the whole of Twin Peaks. What he says is animal life, and that is very important because in Theosophy and certainly Buddhism, we live in the samsara. The world is the samsara, the reality that we live in. If we manage to get past this And this life, this animal life, we are all animals in this life. We're the lowest, lowest of the low. If we move past this astral plane into the next one, we're no longer considered animal life. But the fact that these guys, called us, well, I'll say us as us being Philip Jeffries, David Bowie, a human, yeah, the convenience store people are somewhere in between astral planes. Now, elementals, I exist between the two. Some things can come into our world, but ultimately what we want to do is get past through all this. It's all a test. Electricity is a big part of this. The intention behind electricity more important than electricity itself. Like if it's sent with something good in mind, then it's it's a powerful force either way. It can be used for bad and good. So it's not necessarily an evil thing, electricity. Obviously does wonderful things for humans, electricity, as well as some pretty nasty stuff too. Yeah, I am waffling on that one. Okay. Next up, we have Justice. And it's not John Justice Wheeler. That could kind of be perfect, but it also wouldn't, because there isn't a better, more brave and more wonderful man of the law than Sheriff Harry Truman. His brother could sit here as well, I think, but of course Harry's our favourite, really, isn't he? Because he was just exactly what you want in a sheriff. Brave, strong, sensitive, kind, loyal, easygoing. He's just everything. Fair. More than anything, he is fair. He would fight to the death for you, and he will protect your life. And that's what he's doing here with his sword. In his other hand, he has scales, and they are balanced with coffee and donuts, because that's exactly what he should have in those scales. Perfect. So Justice incarnate. This card represents Libra. If you're a Libra, or you have a Libra in your life, if they come up, take notice. And this card represents equity, equality, triumph of the deserving, and balanced decisions. He's always fair, and he always did the right thing, even when it came to his love, Josie. When he learnt that she had done some pretty bad things and tried to kill Goop and all that, he still did his job first, even in the face of love, and there's not many men that would do that, I don't think. Righteous to the end, and yeah, we love you for that, Harry. Oh, we're getting there. Right. Next up, the Hanged Man. Sorry, way up. Yes, it is. Here we have Dr. Lawrence Jacoby, psychiatrist extraordinaire, and now Dr. Amp. Of course, he has a coconut palm tree that he's hanging from, his coconuts that he kept his secret tapes and things in. He's wearing a lovely Hawaiian shirt. He loved Hawaii. His wife was from Hawaii. And that amazing fish tie. And of course, the glasses that help him see possibly between two worlds. The two of them together, purple. I bet he sees some things. I think that's supposed to be a golf ball falling from his mouth. It would seem right. But what does this card mean? It actually represents a traitor. Now, I don't think we'd call Jacoby a traitor as such, but he was as well in some form, because he did practice psychiatry with Laura when she was just 17 years old. Now, really he should have told her parents about that because she was a minor. But it was kind of good that he didn't, in retrospect. I won't obviously say why. But he wasn't exactly above board in his job. He certainly had feelings for Laura that he shouldn't have. And it's easy to fall in love with Laura, but yeah, he wasn't really the most honest of psychiatrists. And I think Dale Cooper, from the minute he met him, didn't trust him. I don't think he trusted psychiatrists at all anyway, because he's a spiritual man, and there isn't always a logical explanation for these psychic that can be talked through with science, so to speak. This is Jacoby sort of sacrificing, surrendering, giving up, giving in to what happened. And he does get fired from his job, and he's not able to practice psychiatry after everything is revealed. So of course he becomes Dr. Amp and lives in a secluded forest, painting golden shovels for people to shovel themselves out of the shit. So he's still kind of doing the same job, but without the title. He's more of a conspiracy theorist type now, angry at the world, so angry, but so of our time. And he's not wrong in a lot of the things he says. He's just going a very funny way about it, and he's still in it for money. You're never sure just how sincere anybody is when they're asking for $30 for a shovel he's spray painted gold. But you gotta love him. Who doesn't love Jacoby? Right, next up. And this card represents Scorpio. This is such a great, powerful card, isn't it? We have Sarah Palmer crying with her phone still in the hand. Here's Laura's washed up body on the shore, wrapped in plastic, her necklace, her diary, secret diary, and her prom photo. And here's Leland, her husband, riding in on a white horse of death. Carrying a flag of the Blue Rose. It tells you so much, this card, doesn't it? So much. And I think with season 3 in mind, Sarah's perhaps not so much of a victim as we once thought. Yeah, she was drugged so that she didn't know what was happening and underneath the fan in her house, but at the same time I think she was turning a blind eye to it, and that is what started eating her up, and it became a demon inside her, a demon that wore her daughter's smile. Anyway, yes, so she becomes a murderer in the end. Well, anyway, I'm not going to talk about that now. I could talk about this stuff forever, but I won't now. Yeah. Something a bit more pleasant now. We have my dream girl, my favourite, Norma, as Temperance. Again, it couldn't be more perfect. Here depicted with wings made of cherry pie slices. She pours from one pot to another, coffee to a coffee cup. She's got the cups here of the diner. And she just represents warmth and well, just comfort. She's maternal, and she's the soul of Twin Peaks, really. She's depicted as an angel for a reason. She really is genuinely that good. I mean, yes, she has an affair with Ed, who's a married man, whilst she's a married woman, but on paper that's not good, but their love was true love, and it's kind of, they stuck themselves in some difficult situations that they couldn't get out of, but they were so patient. She waited for so long, and she never asked him to leave. and she never expected anything. She just got on with her life, and she didn't have children. She just got on with her businesses, and she looked after Shelley, and you know, she just loved her family and her people at her diner, her visitors, her guests. So yes, she was the soul of Twin Peaks, and temperance very much means all of that. This is the card that represents Sagittarius. Right? It's a card of learning to bring about balance. It's about patience, about everything in moderation, and avoiding extremes, staying calm in a crisis, being forthright, not being a walkover, but also listening and taking people's opinions on board. It's also about connecting with your guides. And I think Norma character was probably one of the better guides herself, but yeah, she it's for anybody who gets this in their reading. It might be about talking to a kind of maternal figure in your life, if not your own mother, a woman that you can talk to openly, and you know that they will give you good and honest advice. Next, and it's the last card that represents a star sign, my star sign. So I'm almost dare not reveal this card. The devil. And of course it had to be Bob. Yes, so this represents Capricorn, the goat. It's not quite as evil as it sounds. It kind of is, but it's not the worst thing to come up in a reading. It's not saying that there's something evil in your life. What it's about mostly is addiction and being trapped and caged in a situation that you don't want to be in. It could be alcohol, it could be a bad marriage, an abusive relationship, it could be addiction to sex, to drugs, to alcohol, to fitness. It could be anything that you are caged by, basically. And so we have Bob here grinning as he has Laura and Renette in chains, and a bowl of garmonbozia here, of the pain and suffering that he's accumulated from these girls. The owls behind him, and the map to the Black Lodge. There, the black is highlighted so that we know he's not a good character. But yeah, it's about extremes. It's about hedonism. It's about an abundance of good times, so to speak, fun things which aren't good for you. It's about temptation and being seduced by material things and physical and carnal pleasures. It's about greed in that sense, of just wanting to experience everything, but without a care for anyone else. And it's just because, you know, sex is not a bad thing. So, yeah, not at all. But, you know, if you aren't doing it with love, or with even the slightest bit of love in mind, or with care or consideration for your partner, then yeah, it's not great. So it could represent someone in your life who's quite dominant or obsessive with you, and makes you a bit fearful. So if you're in quite a stifling relationship, this card may come up in your readings. It's about bondage and feeling chained and suffocated and tied down. So that's what this card can represent perfectly by Bob. The devil, the demon, the parasite who lives on people's suffering, and his animal. He's just pure animal, really. Right. Now there's still more to go. Next up is the tower. The tower here in this deck is depicted by the mill, and just like the Rider-Waite deck, it has the crown here as an electric bolt. Lightning bolt hits the tower and sets their crowns falling. That's perfect that we've got Ben and Catherine. So while it was in the show, Catherine was the one who really suffered in the mill fire. It was Ben's idea, and he would pay the price for that. Because Catherine did not die. She escaped, and then she got Ben back in her guise as Mr. Tojimura. But they both suffered. Really, they were both betrayed. They both went through hell. Catherine disappeared for a while into the woods. We don't really know what happened to her, and Ben lost his mind and became General Lee. Yeah, it was they were fun times. So the tower is usually representative of something major happening, something pretty. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but totally unexpected. So it could be a bit of a warning if it comes up. It could be it could be about a dangerous situation you're in or a crisis that's about to happen. So it's worth keeping an eye out and staying safe and noticing, being aware of your surroundings a bit more often, or attunely, should we say. But it's also a warning about how you treat people. If karma will always find you. If you treat people badly, you are going to end up hurt yourself. It's just the way the world works. Whether you feel it straight away, if karma comes for you almost immediately, or it comes for you down 20 years down the line, it will get you. And if it doesn't get you in this life, it'll get you in the next. So treat people well. Okay. Next we have everyone's favourite receptionist, Lucy the Star. Here she is multitasking, pouring coffee with those amazing donuts, a policeman's dream, and pouring and feeding the plants at the same time. She's nurturing everybody in that sheriff station. Now we know that Lucy, she was a bit of a simple, sweet soul, but she's not really, actually. She's very clever, she's very smart. She's always on the ball. She's so dedicated to her job, and she's got such attention to details. She's very aware of everything that's going on. It's kind of part of being a gossip, I suppose, and really being interested in people's lives, being a bit nosy. But when you're working in a police station, that's a pretty good skill to have. But she also had a really nurturing nature. She loved Andy. She did love Andy, and she stuck up for herself well. She was, pregnant and dealing with two men acting like dicks around her. She dealt with it well. She did, and she looked after poor Wilder the minor bird before he was shot. Oh, bless her. So the star card represents finding inspiration, hope and faith, and a sense that you've been blessed by the universe. That's a nice way to feel, isn't it? It's a nice card to get if you get it. It's about opportunities, spirituality, and good health. So it's a really nice card to get in your reading. But staying calm in a crisis, and just using those skills. You've got everyone has a lot of skills. Some of them you don't use very often, but they're all in there. Use them. You make yourself noticed because you are a star. This sheriff station would have been a shambles without Lucy. I think we know actually when she went to go and visit her sister, it all fell apart quite a bit without Lucy there. She's organised. She's yep, she knows everything. So if you get this card, give yourself a pat on the back. You are doing a great job. And here's this card that John Thorne talked about in the introduction, the Moon. So yes, there's Cooper from the last episode of season 2 when he has left the lodge, should we say, or the waiting room, and he is not who he seems. He smashes his head against the mirror in the bathroom, and we see his reflection is Bob. Oh, and that was the cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers. 30 years we waited, almost, to find out what happened next. And this card represents illusion and deception, perfectly presented here by Cooper not being actually the real Cooper, pretending to be someone else. It suggests a time of when something is not quite what it seems. If you can feel this kind of energy in your life, take notice. Take notice and really think about what's happening. And is somebody pulling the wool over your eyes? Is somebody trying to trick you and gaslight you into thinking that it's all in your head? Don't let that happen. It's about fear and secrets and betrayal, insecurity and mental confusion. It's not a nice card to get. You'd think it would be with the Moon, wouldn't you? But it's not great. And as we see here, we've got the 2 peaks, fire between the 2, and 3 animals: the horse, the owl, and the pine weasel, I think. 3 very important animals. Now, in normal terms, and it's certainly within Twin Peaks, we know that the horse usually represents death is coming. The owl represents a disguise. They're not what they seem. It's somebody pretending to be something they're not. They're behind a mask. And the pine weasel, again, is very similarly used as a fake, like when Ben used it to try and win Ghostwood. He wanted to win Ghostwood through pretending that he cared about the extinction of this pine weasel. He didn't care at all, really. So it's all about fakeness and things not being as they look on the surface. So let this card be a warning to you if it shows up in yours. Now for something totally opposite. It's the Sun. It's great. I think usually on the Rider-Waite deck it's purely the Sun, but here we have the Fireman, which is very, it's quite right, really, isn't it? And in front of the Fireman we have some blue roses in a field, and what is normally on the Rider-Waite deck is a child riding a white horse, but instead we have the little man from another place. Now we don't know. I feel that the little man from another place was not a good spirit. He was working on the dark side, so should we speak. But it's not totally clear, really. And now that he's a tree, it's even harder to guess. But I think the whole thing means that good and evil have to work together, because without light there is no darkness. Without darkness there is no light. You can't have one without the other. There has to be a balance. So I think it's this chess game. Yep, there will be winners from either side at some point. They'll be up on their game and the others will be down, but it has to move. It has to keep moving. You can't always have one side winning all of the time. But the Sun card, if it turns up in your reading, is a very, very nice card to have. It means good fortune, enlightenment, joy, marriage, material happiness and success. So it's really nice if you get this in your reading. It's about harmony and, yeah, I think between them here, even though they might not all be with good intentions, there's a harmony here. Harmony and success of keeping things stable. Almost at the end. There we go. Next up is Judgment, represented by Mr. Wyndham Earl and his chessboard here. Poor. Forgotten his name. That's not good to say. I've forgotten his name, but yeah, the chess piece. He holds a flute, which in this case is a log, I think. We've got his silly flute. Got the alcove symbols here of the giant and the smaller figure from the alcove, which he was scoping out basically with his bugs in the office, hidden in the bonsai. But why would he be Judgment? Because I think Judgment is usually a pretty good card to have. So it usually represents an awakening or a calling. Something that would be decided for you in your fate. It usually presents the end of something, the absolute end of something, and a dynamic new beginning. It's about redemption, reincarnation, renewal, and decision making. But what our bad man Wyndham Earl, crazed Wyndham Earl, he tried to make a judgment. He tried to play the lodges and win. He overestimated his own power by 1 billion. His mortal soul was never going to last, and his soul was taken by Bob because he could not decide. When he tried to take the soul of Cooper, his was taken by Bob, because there are laws. There are laws even within the darkest places. There's things you can and cannot do, and yeah, Wyndham paid a big price for his cockiness. Yeah, so if it comes up in your reading, it usually means that, yeah, there's a big decision to be made, but that decision is going to make a big change to your life. Now, this is the last official card of the Major Arcana, and of course, the world is represented by Laura Palmer. Beautifully falling through space, falling deeper and deeper. This card represents the ending to a cycle. It means rebirth, it means going back to the beginning again. So starting with the Fool once again, you would go around. And in particular in this card, we see a lot of elements of Laura Palmer's secret life. So you have the fact that she worked as a sex worker at One-Eyed Jack's. We've got her secret love with James, represented in the half-heart necklaces. Her very secret fact that Bob was sneaking into her bedroom and sexually assaulting her since the age of 12. And I think this probably represents the missing pages of her secret diary, where she reveals who is the real Bob, the man behind the mask. She has everything in this is that she's full of secrets, really. She's got a secret diary there. She's smoking secretly. She had a secret major cocaine habit. And it wasn't just Bobby and James and Ben and Jacques Renault and all of these people that she was sleeping with, Josie. There's loads of other people that were abusing her, basically. She lived a terrible, terrible 17 years on this earth. And yeah, I think that's why this story of Laura Palmer resonates with so many people, because she experienced so much. And lots of young women and men have experienced similar in their lives. It's the first story, really, where the victim has become more important than the killer. And she's probably one of the most famous dead girls of all time. And that's kind of the way it should be. We should learn more about these people's lives and not about the person who took their life. This card, though, when it comes up in your reading, it definitely means the ending of something. So if you are going through a really painful cycle or something terrible is happening, it's going to end. It will successfully end. Your life is going to change quite significantly, and hopefully healing will start at this point. Hopefully you have not been going through anything traumatic, but it still means that you've got something big. A new start is on its way. It's quite a major card to receive. There we have the Major Arcana card. But there are two extras that I want to show you as well, because they're so very cool. First up, we have Mark Frost, the writer. I love this because it shows all his work. He's got his Greatest Game Ever Played, because he writes books. He's written books about golf and baseball. He's got Invitation to Love there on screen, on the air. I think this is, I think this possibly represents the Paladin prophecy, possibly. And yeah, there he's writing hard. I mean, this is the guy that creates these wonderful characters and adds the mysticism to the story, which has intrigued us all for 30 plus years now. This guy, yeah, there would be no Twin Peaks without this guy. He's genius. We love you, Mark Frost. Thank you for bringing us this amazing story and teaching us so much along the way and helping us through our lives, because you really have. There's Mark Frost, and so it's no surprise who's up next. The director, Mr. David Lynch himself, sat here with his camera very much posed like the well, I forgot his name, the scary man anyway, in Lost Highway. But I think the Lost Highway is also depicted here in the road here. We've got the elephant man's disfigured skull, the picket fences from Blue Velvet, and the red roses, and a blue rose, of course, for Twin Peaks and Firewalk with Me. Got fire here, which can either represent Firewalk with Me or perhaps Wild at Heart as well, I would have thought. Oh, we've got red drapes. Got the box from Mulholland Drive. Rabbits in the background there. And the baby Eraserhead. So it's all there. Maybe Inland Empire might be there somewhere. I'd have to, no, it's in Rabbits. Rabbits is in Inland Empire anyway, isn't it? So use that. I mean, that could also be the straight story, because there's lots of roads in that too. You couldn't really get a full tractor lawnmower in there, could you? But yeah, and that's just beautiful. And I think both the writer and director cards, I will use them in the readings, because I think they can represent us. You know, this guy has all the visuals. He has all the ideas of how something should look. He knows how to bring dreams and nightmares to life. He runs the show. He's got it all in there. He knows how to transcend. He does transcendental meditation, and he has a different outlook on the world than most of us. That's why his films are so amazing. We all know that what he puts on screen is symbolistic of what people feel. I think with like certainly the black and white lodges and, well, various other depictions could be representing the mind, the subconscious, the unconscious mind. And a lot of season 3, I think, existed in that place. But he brought it to life. That's what he does. And with Mark Frost, he writes these amazing characters and amazing dialogue, and he's funny and it's scary and it's horrifying and traumatic and it's beautiful and charming, and we love it, and that's why we've loved it for so long. So yeah, I'm going to add these in. The creative people, Mark and David, I'm going to keep you in, because if they come up in your readings, then I think we can probably guess what they're going to represent. I'll let you decipher those anyway. Thank you for watching this. I will do some videos on the Minor Arcana suits. There's a lot of them, so I think I'll do them in smaller videos because it won't be quite as long as this. Sorry. And thank you for watching. So I will hopefully in the next few days we'll get some proper readings out for you, hopefully starting the beginning of August, because that feels right, doesn't it? We'll start with you Leos. Thank you. So I'll if I ever mention any places to visit, like the Blue Rose magazine or 25 Years Later or Welcome to Twin Peaks and various podcasts, I'll drop the links in the bio. So thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.